Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Robert Stanley, Smile Engineer. Welcome to today's edition of Implants Made Simple. Today on the show, we have Adam Ahokas, who's been a longtime friend of mine, and he's got a very interesting story to tell with regards to dental labs. And what we can do is we can go back in time and start with way back in the day, you were a chairside assistant.
Right. So I always did very poor in school, and college was not my path. I wish I could have, but I couldn't do it. So thankfully, a kind dentist one day asked me if I wanted a job when I was 18, helping her. And I told her, I was like, I don't know about that. Don't women do that job? And she was like, kind of got offended. And she was like, no, men can do it too. So I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I loved it. And I used to work with, of course, mostly females, and they would kind of give me a hard time. But the blood kind of grossed me out. So I would trade the lab work and office lab work for them to do the surgery or whatever I was supposed to do. We'd trade, and I kind of got a knack for lab work. And then that just kind of grew. And then one day I was...
How long did you do the lab work? How many years?
So I did that in office. I was a DA 2, maybe 4 years.
4 years.
So I started at 18. So I've been in dentistry 20 years. So about 22, I decided to do something different. And I always wanted to own my own business. So I liked the creative process of making things. So I was like, at that point we were newly married and we had a first son on the way, Jude. And I was like, man, so I met a lab guy. He said, hey, I have an entry-level job, but it's a 50% pay cut to learn it. So I was like, I went home and said, honey, how do you feel about a 50% pay cut and moving back in with her parents to learn something new? And she was like, but she did it. She supported me. So we did it. And I learned the industry, and I started managing a lab for a while. And then that worked out. So then at that point, I went off, opened a lab, and that's when I met you.
Okay.
And that was a while ago now.
And so then that first lab that you started on your own, that was an analog lab.
Fully analog. I mean, it's a denture lab. So everything by hand. I mean, the way they've been doing it for forever. That's the way we ran that lab. And so we had that for a number of years. And then we moved overseas for a while. And then when the pandemic hit, we came back to the States. And then,
That's right.
Of course, over the years, me and you've always stayed in contact.
Yeah.
And then you were like, hey, how do you feel about doing these arches? And I was like, no, And then I think I saw you again, and you asked me again about it. And then kind of got my wheels turning. And then at that point, I knew digital was around for fix for a while, but removable, it hasn't been here. I mean, the design part's been here, but not the manufacturing. So I always kind of held off on it until the manufacturing became a better, more scalable solution. And then just at that time period when you kind of came to me in the industry, in the marketplace, additive technology came around, printing for dentures, that is the long-term solution. So that guided me, okay, well, it's like the design part's here, manufacturing's here, I think it's ready. And intraoral scanners were getting better.
Right. Then desktop scanning.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so that was the kind of the start of it. So then I was like, let's open another lab, and this time it's going to be all digital.
And what do you call your new lab?
Chameleon. It's called Chameleon Digital Dental Lab.
How did you come up with that name?
I didn't come up with it. My sister-in-law came up with it.
Your sister-in-law.
Yeah, and I guess the chameleon lizard, there is there, but it blends in. So we're kind of a resource for doctors, but we also want to blend in. So we don't want to, we're just there to help you. But we're there, but kind of like you can't see us kind of deal. That's where it came from.
That's cool.
Kind of cheesy.
So let me take a second to just fill in a couple of little blanks here from my perspective.
Yep.
So you may know that there's a Colby test. And a Colby test is a test that people can take that determines not your intelligence, but your aptitude to do things in a certain way. And so, for instance, I'm considered in that test mode, I'm considered a fact finder follow through. And you're considered a quick start. And so is my wife. Dr. Bobby is considered a quick start.
Right.
So Dr. Bobby is out of a 10, she's an 8. And if you know Dr. Bobby, if you know anything about Dr. Bobby, it's let's go streaking in the quad and she's gone. Like there's no thinking about it. But the really fun thing is that Adam is a 10 out of 10. He's the only 10 out of 10 that I've ever met. And so the night that I talked to him, the day that I talked to him about starting a digital lab, The next day he came in and had bought, what, three printers that night?
I bought everything I needed.
Yeah, he bought everything he needed that night.
I did not know how to do it.
He didn't know how to do it. And he said you set it up in your parents'
My mother-in-law's dining room.
mother-in-law's dining room. So that is what you call a quick start.
Yes.
Quick starts are the best kinds of people to have around if you want to have a good time. Fact finders, not so much. We'll sit on the couch forever debating whether we should go to the beach or not.
But you need both.
You do, because we can keep fact finders a little safe. You want to look over the edge before you jump. So I always like to kid about that with Dr. Bobby. So you buy these. I
bought everything. I told my wife, I was like, honey, I bought everything, and she started crying.
Why did she start crying?
She's like, oh my gosh, you don't even know how to use it.
Right.
But you better believe, with that kind of fire underneath you, you figure it out. So day in and day out, I mean, literally probably 12 hours a day, I would sit there and learn it. And then at night, I would think about it. I would dream about it. I'd wake up. I'd do it again and again and again. And then at that point, I started figuring out the processes, how to scale it, and then also figuring out, because my job as a lab is not to, I'm just going to sound, but my job is not to keep patients happy. My job is to make doctors' lives easier so that they can keep their patients' lives happy.
Right.
I help them. So I thought, well, how do we make common practices smoother for the doctor? And if they have these scanners, how do we utilize them more?
Right.
So that was the kind that got the wheels turning as far as how do we make digital easy.
Right.
Yeah, so that was like the motivation for doing it. So as soon as I figured it out, now it's about how do I streamline these processes for offices? How do I get them using their scanners? How do we make their job easier?
So the reason, with almost a decade of doing analog denture work and also having 4 years of chairside experience, when you decided to take on the new technology to make digital dentures or digital full mouth screw retained solutions, or onesie twosies for that matter,
Right.
You took all that experience and you rolled it up and you said, now I just need these new tools.
Right.
And once I learned the new tools, then you started to see that these can really make doctors' lives easy.
Yeah, and obviously, I've never had the most confidence as a person. So thankfully, you've been a huge resource to like give me confidence to you can do it and you can learn it. So put enough pressure on me to learn it. But what I realized with these screw retained cases are, I would tell doctors out there if they want to get into them that get good at dentures first, because dentures are actually more similar to a screw retained than you think.
So you're too set up.
Exactly, because you're replacing teeth in space.
Right.
So almost like the dental labs have always been separated by like ortho, fixed, and removable. But actually, they should be more separated by not ortho, but fixed and removable. They should be more set up as do I replace a few teeth or do I replace a lot of teeth? Because now they're divided by materials, but in reality, they should be divided by how many teeth you're looking to replace at a time.
That's very interesting.
Right. So with full arch is just figuring out where teeth go in space, and dentures is a shoe-in for that. So now you just got to learn materials, software. Of course, there's a lot to learn about it, but as far as where teeth go, if you're a doctor who's good at dentures or if you want to get into this, I would say start getting good at where teeth go and dentures, and that's a shoe-in as far as restoring full arch, in my opinion.
Which is exactly what we try to do with our institute and in our private practice, and that is we start with the pros first.
Right.
So we do a pros-driven protocol, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
We start with the teeth. Where do we want the teeth to go? And then we say, from there, where do the implants need to go to support this?
Yeah.
And give them hopefully a lifelong solution if it's all done properly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the workflow's been working out really, really smooth.
So you've made some huge steps recently in the digital workflow,
Right.
with the powerball screw.
Right.
Tell me about that. How does the powerball screw convey an enormous advantage to the dental lab as well as to the end user, the doctor and the patient? So
when me and you first started working on these, or you've been doing this longer than I have, but when I first started working on these with you, these full arch cases, they were, so you have the healing. They've been wearing the healing prototype for a while. They're all integrated. But now normally you have to go through all these steps of get a verified model. And that's 3 or 4 appointments in itself. So to speed it up, with your surgeries, you would have 2. So you'd take the backup one and you'd take a wash impression underneath it to have your updated tissue. You have a verified model, take a bite, and you can go at least to a try-in. We could skip some appointments. But it's still a so you design it in the digital world off of a physical model, but there's not a good way to transition back to a physical world in order to put in the tie bases. Mm-hmm. The tie bases, so you have this perfect digital system, you mill it out, everything's digital, but now you got to put this digital product back on an analog world, and you have to cement in these tie bases. That introduces, in my opinion, it can introduce error.
Because you have to build a physical model.
Correct.
With the multi-unit hybrids, the multi-unit analogs in the model.
Right.
Then you have to put the tie copings on that and lute.
Correct.
Either the temporaries or the finals onto that.
Yes.
So that's a lot of lab time and effort.
It's time, effort, and in my opinion, you can introduce error.
Possible error.
And or not cementing something correctly. They can delaminate. And also just headache. For me, it was a lot of headache, and I thought this is not a real scalable solution. It's not a quick, because you do these cases, people want their teeth.
Right.
So how do we make this efficient and fast,
yeah.
but also do a good job? And people don't want to wait months for these things. So in order to turn around try-ins quicker or prototyping quicker, we need a faster way a more accurate way to do this. So then my wheels started turning again. How do we get rid of this? How do we get rid of this model stuff?
How do we go straight digital the whole way?
Yes.
Without having to go back into the analog world just to go back into the mouth?
Yes, and it's been nice working with you because you've been open to wanting to do it, to be on board, and so we've been able to figure out some really cool workflows with this. And to me, the best part about this, the most exciting part is for doctors or offices that are willing to get their own in-office printer. This is the future, in my opinion, of prototyping, because they can have the parts in office. They can do all the scanning in office. We can do all the designing remotely. We send them the file. They print the prototype. So you can do very fast try-ins because we're just doing iterations of prototyping. There's no parts.
Right.
Because the doctor has the screws. They have the printer, the material. So it's almost like an inkjet. You just print your document in your office.
Right.
You're printing the documents. There's no lab needed to put the parts in for you. You can do it.
Right.
And we can also train your staff how to do the temporary pink work, which is pretty easy.
So that has been a game changer in our private practice. When Adam talks about using this powerball screw, he literally can print a set of teeth, and we take it straight to the mouth. We can add some pink to it if we need to, but we add a little pink on the gingiva, and we take it straight to the mouth, and with the powerball screw it right into the mouth. There's no digital to analog conversion where you have to have a model and then lute tie copings to it. Right. And then for those folks that try to promote or want to promote a metal-free solution, it's a monolithic plastic for the temporaries. It's a monolithic zirconia for the finals.
Right.
There's no titanium tie base inside the prostheses.
Yes,
so it just screws right in.
And I also think about future time. Like, what if something breaks in 5 years? You can just remanufacture the old file you have. You don't have to hold on to these models.
Right.
Otherwise, you need those models to re-put those tie bases in.
And I love the concept of, I believe, just like you just mentioned, that everybody's going to have having a digital printer.
Yes.
In the office is going to be standard equipment in all dental offices in the very near future.
Right.
And having services like yours that can say, I can design the new set of provisionals for you and send you the digital file through the internet, so it's there in seconds.
Yes.
And then you just hit print, and maybe you print over lunch or maybe you print overnight.
Yep.
And the next day your try-in's ready to go, and you just take it out of the printer, wash it, clean it, take it to the mouth and screw it in. It just really accelerates that workflow.
It's so exciting. And if you have someone who is in a healing prosthetic and it breaks, my worst fear is I get a call at 4:00 on a Friday and they're like, I need these teeth over the weekend. Like, I can't, that's tough.
Right.
So with the office having their own prototype file, they can manage their own issues. If someone breaks one, they just print it themselves. The file they have.
Yeah.
They're more autonomous, which is nice. And we're all about offices having their own printer.
Yeah.
It's great for, at least I think it is. It's great for them to be able to have control of that.
And the printers Printers are getting better and better.
Yes,
Costs
and
are coming down.
Easier to use.
And most of your printers are the DLP printers.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So the advantage is
The cool thing about DLP printing is it does not, within reason, it doesn't take more time to print a full volume, a full bill plate versus a small amount, because it just shines one projector image per layer, regardless of how many regardless of the size, which is, it's fast.
Very fast, yeah.
So now the printers are really easy. I mean, offices can set these up in an hour. I mean, it's not hard. We can walk them through how to do it. I mean, I'm all about helping you how to do it.
and then once you get these printers, and then you can really start to become quite creative with other things in your practice.
Yeah. You can manage your own. A lot of scanners now are starting to build in integrated software to create your own models. You can print your own models. It's not as very cost effective for a lab to print you a model. By the time you print it and clean it and ship it, it's not a money making for a lab. So we're all about offices, print their own stuff.
Yeah.
Do your own in-house bleaching trays. You can do a lot of stuff with it, and we can kind of just. Oh, big thing is night cards now. A lot of we do a lot of night card designs. So offices print their own night cards in-house. We design the file and send it to them. So if it breaks or if a dog eats it, they can just reprint their own file they have. So it takes a lot of the headache off of, at least in my opinion, a lot of the headache I don't want.
In our practice, our private practice, what we've noticed is that our biggest challenge with full arch solutions, it's not the surgery, it's not the healing, it's the pros work at the end. And so we've really been very pleased with working with you over the last couple of years here as we've gone through this digital evolution. But I think there's something about what you do in your business that you offer that it makes you somewhat unique, in addition to just being a 10 out of 10 quick start.
Maybe a very imbalanced person.
Well, that's what your wife's for, right? she balances you out. But I think it's your communication.
Okay.
And so when we communicate in these cases, what I've found is my biggest challenge with the industry, whether they don't have resources in place to help them, whether they don't have the kind of history that you've had being chairside, then being analog, now being digital, that plays into your psyche, into how you look at these cases differently than someone who's maybe just newly trained in digital and they don't have that background. But the ability to communicate is paramount to really not just getting these cases done at the end, but nailing them. And when I say nailing them, I mean like doing them so well that you would be happy to show this on stage at the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry and say, what do you see here? And for them to think, maybe it's veneers, maybe it's Invisalign, maybe it's ortho, I don't know. But maybe they're not even guessing that it's full mouth, screw retained solutions. And so I think that communication that you guys offer is what really, in addition to just really quality work, but it really streamlines what can sometimes be a huge quagmire at the end.
Yes, and that's kind of that's the part that I found frustrating too. I mean, office dental doctors and labs are in the same boat. We don't want to do it over and over again either. So we want to help make this as smooth as possible, least amount of try-ins as possible. And through these workflows that we've been working through, now we have it down to a science. So it's very reproducible now.
What do you think are some of the most important things a doctor can share with a lab to help facilitate a very smooth final prostheses development?
What can they share with a lab? I guess their expectations. What's important to them? What part do they struggle with? What do they want to get better at? Not everyone's good at everything. There's a lot I learn every day. So there's things that I've learned from tons of people. So just figure out what the doctor feels comfortable, which part they feel comfortable with, which part they feel not so comfortable with. Just tell us. And we can try to fill in each other's, gaps, I guess, of where.
Would you say that digital photography could help facilitate that
as far as things
communication?
like that, photos, huge. Photos are very important. Not the photos of them smiling. Those are big pictures. I mean, it's crucial. Any complaints they have, concerns. Just looking at instead of being overwhelmed by all these things, all these, implants and all these parts, and instead of just try to set away the noise and just look at them like a set of dentures, and you're just trying to make it look nice in their mouth, try to get their bite right. The same principles still apply. We'll take care of all the manufacturing and the parts, the locations of, how they're built. But as far as the doctor's point of view, just treat it like a denture. Maybe that's too simple way to look at it, but that's how I look at it.
No, I think that's spot on, because when I do my consultations with patients, I tell them that they basically have three options, and I say they're good, better, best, and they go from a denture to locators to screw retained, and then I say this. I say it doesn't get good, better, best doesn't matter with respect to how they look.
Right.
They're all going to look the same. What the difference is functionality, what you can eat. And so that's where the difference is not in the looks, because you're absolutely right. We're driving to that ideal, aesthetic prosthodontic solution, irrespective of how it's retained in the mouth.
Right. Yes, you're right. Yeah. So I think look at it more simple. Don't get scared or stressed out, but just view it like I'm going to give them a set of dentures, and there happens to be some implants underneath it.
That's right.
And we'll try to help you navigate those.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's been fun. It's been a nice challenge. I really enjoy them.
So what's next? I'm sure by tomorrow you're going to have like a couple more mills purchased.
I think I just need to chill out for a second. No, I think the next thing I'm excited about is more offices doing their own in-house printing.
Really helping people print at home.
To form more partnerships where, hey, you have the printer, you have the scanner, we help design your cases for you. We utilize, FaceTime, we utilize all these things, technology, and we can kind of almost make it feel like you have your own in-house lab.
Right.
And that's a key part of that is an office having a printer and digital scanner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest thing.
It's interesting if you look at the history of dentistry. Dentists used to do all their own lab work.
Yes.
So my grandfather was a dentist in Chicago, and he did all his own lab work in-house. And then over time, it became efficient for dentists to outsource the lab work. And then for many, many decades, it's been outsourced. And now it's kind of turning around with this technology. You're saying, I'll have a lab person who is my technical person. Mm-hmm. They can do the design remotely and then send me the file. But now the lab work is actually done in-house in a printer. And so it's nice and clean. There's no dust or anything like that. And it's kind of coming full circle.
Yes. And I don't know how much lab work clinicians are taught in school. I don't know. But the more you can learn about it, the processes, even though you don't want to be a lab person, the more you can learn about it, it can benefit you a lot as far as just understanding why some things work and why they can't work.
That's good.
Yeah. But I'm all about it. I love where dentistry is going. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Thank you so much, Adam,
yes,
for taking some time
thank you for having me.
Share with us today.
Yep.
It's an amazing story. If anyone wants to get in touch with Adam, his link will be in the description below. Please feel free to reach out to him. He'd be happy to chat with you.
Thank you.
This has been an edition of Implants Made Simple. Smile Engineer, out.